In this short video, I'm going to show you how you can connect Google Analytics to any supported target using CONVAYR. So in CONVAYR, let's create our connection by clicking the green plus button. We select Google Analytics as the source, and then we can select any available target. For this simple example, I'm going to select email because I want to create a CSV file from my Google Analytics data and send that via email. So we click apply. The next stage is CONVAYR is going to ask us for some credentials. So we simply enter our credentials and click apply. These are of course, our Google Analytics credentials. On the next page, CONVAYR is going to ask us for some parameters so it knows what metrics and dimensions to get from Google Analytics. In here, we simply populate the account and the property that we want, and we can toggle this switch here to make these dates relative. So in this example, I'm going to pull data from the last 7 days to today. And every time this runs on a schedule, this will always be relative to these statements. Then we can select our metrics. I've just got active users and sessions here, and our dimensions. The last one I want to add in here is browser. So I simply type that in the box and it comes up, and I can hit add to add that dimension. But you have access to any of the dimensions and metrics from your Google Analytics setup. Then you can choose to order the contents of the file by any of the elements that you've got within your file itself. So in this case, date in descending order. And then we hit apply. In the next stage, we move to set up the target. To do this, we simply enter the email recipients for the email containing the CSV file. We can have multiple recipients in here as well, simply by going to another line and typing in another email address. We set up what we want the subject line and the body to have within the email. And then we set up our prefix and date suffix for the file itself, our time zone for the file, of course, and the delimiter for the CSV file. Now here, you can actually upload your own specific headers. So if you want CONVAYR to map the data in your Google Analytics, from Google Analytics into a specific file format that then gets sent out on email, you can upload the headers here, and they will then become available in your mapping. I'm just going to keep it as it is though, so let's just hit apply. The next thing we need to do is set up our connection itself. So in here, we give the connection a name and a description, choose which folder we want to make that connection live in, and then we can set up tags. So tags are very useful for people coming into CONVAYR who want to search for a specific set of connections. They can search by the tags attached to those connections. Here, I'm going to choose to retain 10 of the last logs. So that's my error and troubleshooting logs and notifications and things like that. And then I'm going to leave maximum records off. Note that these settings are just standard settings that you would get in any connection. And then I'm going to click create to create the connection itself. Now the next step, CONVAYR is going to ask me whether I want to actually do the mapping now or whether I want to do the mapping later. I would always recommend that you do the mapping at the same time that you build the connection, but it's completely up to you. So I'm going to go to the mapping. When building your mapping, CONVAYR has a really cool way to make it super quick to build the field mappings. On the right here, I'm going to select Auto Match Fields. CONVAYR has automatically matched the fields, which are my dimensions and metrics that I set up when I was setting up the connections, to the relevant fields that we're going to create in our CSV file. And that's really all I need to do for the basic field mapping. If you are using auto match fields, I would recommend that you go through and validate that the mapping is correct, because sometimes the names of the source fields and the target fields are going to be quite different. Therefore, you may have to do a manual adjustment in here as well if you use that feature. But in this case, this is everything that I need to do. Of course, if you wanted to go through, change how you handle errors, add transformations in here, create expressions to fill in gaps in your data, use variables or conditions on fields or sections, or even create multiple sections to start breaking up the file, then you could do that in here as you could in any connection that you build with Conveyor. But again, this is just a simple example to show you Google Analytics. So this is everything that I want to do in the mapping for now. So I'm going to click Apply. Then once this is done, we come back to our main dashboard and we can see our Google Analytics connection. The next thing I want to do, as normal with any connection, is set up notifications to receive the logs. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to set up here to make this available to run via email. And the reason I'm going to do that is really twofold. Firstly, I don't want to have to log into Conveyor every time that I want to run this on an ad hoc basis, but I also want to make this available for other business users in marketing to be able to run this without having to log into Conveyor and without even needing a user license for Conveyor. Once I've done that, I just hit apply. The next thing I want to do is set this up to run on a schedule. So we go to activation and we create our schedule. Now, you may remember that when I set up the connection, I set the relative dates to be the last 7 days. So in here, I'm going to run this weekly, this connection weekly, and it's going to pull data from Google Analytics at this time on a Monday, and that will make it so that that data sits in the inbox for the people that need this data on a weekly basis on Monday morning. Let's hit apply. But of course, you can also run this at any time simply by coming in and clicking Run Now. I'm going to run the connection. The connection will run and fetch the data and process it and tell me it's complete. And if I want to, I can see all the logs. Again, as always, this is just standard functionality with any connection that you build within Conveyor. Let's now go and have a quick look at what this looks like on my email. So firstly, here's my notification email to say that the job was successful and what's happened and the logs that are attached. And here's my data with the file itself. Let's come back to our dashboard here. Of course, at any time, you can come into Conveyor and change all of the settings for your connection. You can change the mapping, the scheduling, really anything that you want completely on the fly and when you want to. For example, I can go in and add activation blockers. So if I see that my business users are coming in and sending this through at the weekend and I don't want them to do that, I could simply set up an activation blocker and apply this, and I could set that activation blocker to block activation at the weekend and apply that to this connection. Of course, again, all standard functionality within Conveyor. So that's it. That's how easy it is to connect Google Analytics to any available target system. Of course, as we add more and more target systems, you will always be able to connect your Google Analytics data into those target systems. That's the power of Conveyor. Thank you.